We have so many different types of mass storage technologies today. Here I've got a traditional hard drive and an SSD, but I could also use things like optical media or USB thumb drives or all kinds of stuff like that. And today's modern operating systems can handle all of them. Well, how can they do that? Well, there has to be some kind of commonality, and that commonality is called logical block addressing, or LBA. Let me show you how that works. Here is a typical hard disk drive. Now, we do have the rotational media and the little voice coil moving back and forth, but the problem is you can't really see the data stored on there because it's magnetic and it's teeny, teeny, tiny. So imagine if I had some kind of magical, teeny, tiny magnetism viewer like this magnetron, and it's going to zoom in, and now if we take a look, we can see that data is stored in discrete chunks called sectors. Now, on a modern hard drive, these sectors are 4,096 bytes, although for many decades it was only 512 bytes. The important thing is that it's always stored in these discrete chunks called sectors. Now here is an SSD. SSDs store their data on flash memory, so we really can't see the ones and zeros on this SSD. So if we only had some kind of magic device that could open up these chips and let us look inside and see what's really happening, we would look in and we would see that the data is stored in discrete chunks called pages. On an SSD, these pages are typically 4,096 bytes each. So you've got all of these different types of mass storage technologies that store their data in these little discrete containers. Now, on an old hard drive, it's going to be called a sector. On an SSD, it's going to be called a page. Every different type of mass storage has its own little thing. The beautiful part is that we don't have to worry about that because of logical block addressing. What logical block addressing does is it takes whatever these different types of mass storage devices do and simply presents the data in little discrete containers called blocks. So LBA actually lives on the mass storage device itself. So all the cool high technology ways data is stored is simply ignored by us because LBA takes care of it all for us. Now, the best way to take a look at LBA is, well, let's take a trip to a dry cleaner. So here I am with my buddy Kelly at Mustang Cleaners, and you're going to help me explain to all these technicians kind of like how hard drives work, because it has a lot to do with your business, okay? All right, so what'll happen is when I come into a dry cleaner, I take all my clothes and I just hand them to Kelly, and you do something with them. I don't care what she's doing with them because she's going to take care of it and is going to do whatever needs to be done. However, before I leave, you're going to hand me a ticket. And on this ticket is some magic number. And this magic number, when I come back next Thursday, I know I can hand this to Kelly and she can go through all these scary conveyor belts. I don't have to worry about how anything works back there, and I know I can get my clothes. A mass storage device works a lot like that dry cleaner. As an operating system, I don't care what kind of scary conveyor belts are inside this hard drive, whatever magical electronic mumbo jumbo it's doing to store all of this data. But what I do know, as an operating system, if I've got that right number, I can hand that to the hard drive, and that hard drive will hand me whatever is stored in that particular block container. I like to imagine LBA as millions of containers, each with a number that your system can access. In order to get to any block, though, the mass storage device's own onboard electronics act like a gatekeeper, like the person at the dry cleaner counter. Your system just goes up to the window and tells the storage device what block it needs. LBA is fantastic because your operating system doesn't have to know anything about the inner workings of your mass storage device. Now, there is one problem with LBA though, and that is LBA thinks in terms of blocks, whereas operating systems think about your data in terms of files and folders. So we've got to have somebody in between our mass storage devices and our operating system to act as a translator for this. And that's where your file system comes into play. The file system sits between the operating system and the mass storage devices, acting as a translator. To see this in action, let's imagine we are saving a file. When you click File Save, the operating system presents the file to the file system. The file system in turn documents the save and then talks to the hard drive using LBA language, saving the file. And that's the beauty of logical block addressing. It doesn't matter what kind of scary conveyor belts are operating inside your mass storage device, your operating system can always talk to it.